Hi everyone. Yes, the gift is playing. Great. For those of you that haven't met me yet, I'm Gregor. Feel free to tweet me, send questions, shout-outs, photos, whatever. My Twitter handle is on the bottom left right there. So as Riv just mentioned, so I've been with Major League Hacking for quite some time now. It's been 2 years, if you realized yesterday. So I've been in the hackathon community for nearly 3 years now. That's a crazy long time. I also worked with Luke and a bunch of others last year to organize Hacknots, and I will organize Hacknots again this year, again with Amy together and a bunch of others. And in my time when I'm not at hackathons, I'm actually a PhD student at the University of Nottingham. So over the years of being in a hackathon community, I worked with a ton of events from Hacknots to a bunch of others. And I've also, during my time at university, spent a lot of time in different group working and team working settings. And there's a couple of things that I've seen that people do over and over again that make more or less than stellar group working experience. So most of you have probably been in group work at school or university, right? Yep, definitely. How many of you have had a great time in all of those? Oh, one hand is up. Great. So let's talk about some of these things. Let's talk about a team. And actually, we spend a lot of time talking about volunteers and how to manage your volunteers and how to manage things on the weekend when everything gets hectic. It's crazy, but today I actually want to talk to you about the months leading up to the event. And a lot of these things you can actually take away and apply in group working, team working settings, both in university, school, education, work, hackathons, wherever. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about 2 horror stories. Oh, I see Luke staring up at the screen, don't worry. We're going to talk about a couple reasons of why things go wrong. Sometimes it might only be tiny problems, but they can turn into huge issues. So if you don't look out for those reasons, or you don't adopt some strategies, like it can really be a problem. And we're going to talk about some strategies at the end. So let's kick off with some horror stories. So I've got 2 for you. The first one is the multitasking one. Feel free to nod if you've seen this before or encountered this before, and then look around and you will see other people who are nodding as well, because these are actually really common ones. So with the multitasking one, people say, yes, I can do everything. And they want to be really, really helpful. They turn around to other people. It's like, hey, I can help you with this, and I can help you with this, and I can help you with this. And they pile it all on their plate, but they end up losing focus. So they can't actually concentrate on one task anymore. And at the end of the day, they might be missing a lot of deadlines because they have too many different things to do. And the other one is actually a slight opposite of that. And that's the micromanaging part, where you do keep focus of things and you can actually hold deadlines. But the problem is you also hold the deadlines for a lot of other people. And if someone constantly goes to you and says, oh, why don't you do it this way? Or I can do this for you, or I can do this for you. People just get discouraged because they think their work is just not being valued. And at the end of the day, you might then stand there and you might think, oh God, I really just want to get rid of this person and this is just really not working and I want to stop working. Please don't strangle anyone. It's a really nice world out there. And there's a lot of different things that you can do to really enjoy group working and make sure that this might be just a tiny problem, but it doesn't turn into a full-blown issue. So here are some of the reasons. The first one is actually communication. So a lot of the time when we talk with other people, it's quite easy to miss the point. So you talk about point A and you talk about point A, but you somehow don't meet in the middle, but you kind of talk past each other. And it happens more commonly than you might think. And the other one is just not really being clear about what you actually mean. Then when you assign tasks to something, make sure that you do have a single responsible owner. So a lot of the time people say, oh, we're 10 people and everyone's going to answer emails. And then you get a sponsor emailing you, it's like, hey, I really want to invest in your event. And you think, there's 9 other people on the team. I'm pretty sure that someone is going to email that one person. Trust me, they're not. The next one is setting unrealistic expectations. So it's quite easy to get discouraged when you think, oh my God, I need to do all these different things and I'm just not going to fulfill that one task. So let's say if you're interested in sponsorship, if you say, okay, as a first-time organizer, we as a team are going to raise 100,000 euros in 2 weeks, that's like totally not going to happen. But if everyone thinks, yeah, we totally need to do that, and you're the one sponsorship person, it's just not going to happen. You're just going to get discouraged and say, no, sod this, I'm not going to deal with that. And the last one is actually the bus factor. So if you have a lot of different people in a team, people will deal with different things. You might have someone who deals with sponsorship, you have someone who deals with operations, you have someone who deals with marketing, and so on. And let's say the marketing person that also happens to arrange the catering suddenly gets ill and no one else knows what this person has been working on. you get to the hackathon and you suddenly don't know, like, what were the arrangement of the caterer? Like, are we going to get the food? And it's just going to cause a lot of different problems. Whereas if you talk with other people in your group, they might be aware of what's actually going on, and they can just basically jump in if something goes wrong. So here are a couple different strategies. I might have touched on some of these slightly, and you might already see a trend of where this is going. So the first one is actually communication related. So we used to use Facebook quite a lot, because if you think about it, it's great. You have a Facebook group, you have all your organizers in there, you can post, you can comment, you can share files, you can share photos and so on, you can have like a group chat where everyone's engaging. But as most of you know, Facebook gets cluttered really, really easily. If you're on a group chat and you try and find that one post that someone made and you scroll up 150 messages and then just give up, it's just not really good fun. So what we did is we actually started using Slack. How many of you are using Slack at the moment? Great. So don't need to say a lot about why Slack is great. Public channels, private channels, personal messaging. It links them with a lot of other different things like Trello for keeping track of what tasks you're working on, Doodle for scheduling meetings, and so on. Another thing that we did was set ourselves SMART goals. Most of you have probably heard of SMART goals before. It's a very like businessy term. What it essentially means is that whenever you set yourself a task to do, you be very specific about what that task actually is. You try and make it measurable so that you have an understanding of whether you were successful or not. So let's say you want to do sponsorship and you say you want to raise £20,000. It's a lot better than saying, I want to raise enough money to do X, Y, Z, which is just some arbitrary number. So you never quite know, like, have you actually gotten there or not? The next one is you want to have an achievable goal. So this should be realistic. Again, think back to the 100,000 years in 2 weeks. This is not a realistic goal. You also want the goal to be relevant. So you want it to be aligned with other goals that you have. If you say my goal is to organize a kick-ass hackathons where 200 people have a really great time, again, not really a specific one, but if you then say, oh, I also want to like solve the world's energy problem, like that's not really a realistic goal, and it's also not a really relevant goal to what you're actually working on. And you also want the goal to be time-bound. So you want to say, I want to have X, Y, Z done in the next like week or 2 weeks. We also held a lot of different meetings. Meetings are a great way to get some face-to-face time with people. Make sure that you can actually talk about all these different things. And while electronic communications like Slack is great, it doesn't really convey emotions very well. So I'm a big proponent of using smileys all the time. And other people are like, why are you using so many smileys? It's like, yeah, because I write this one sentence, you can interpret it in multiple different ways. But running meetings can actually be like a really, really good thing, or it can be a really pointless thing depending on how you approach running a meeting. So a couple tips that we took on board when running meetings is setting ourselves an agenda so we actually know like that's what we want to talk about in the meeting, so that we don't finish the meeting, then walk away and it's like, oh, I forgot about talking this. We also took the SMART goal strategy to make sure that what we wanted to get out of the meeting is actually setting some appropriate goals that we can then fulfill at a later stage. During the meeting, we had someone assigned who was taking notes. And another thing that's actually something that coming out of MLH that we haven't even used at Hacknots is what we call handshakes. So a lot of the time when you have a meeting, someone is making a point and everyone's like, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and then let me just reiterate that in a different fashion because I also want to give my opinion. But the problem with that one is that you end up talking for a really, really long time. You get distracted, you run out of time, and then people are like, oh, we still have 10 points in our agenda. We've been here for 2 hours. So what we did is if we agree with a point, you just shake your hand. And if you don't agree with a point, you shake your head. And if you shake your head, then yes, you can jump in, but otherwise you're just going to add some more fluff to discussion. And lastly, is actually expanding on the notes that we took during the meeting. So a lot of the time when you take notes somewhere, you walk away from it, and be it the next day or 2 weeks later, you look at your notes, it's like, I'm sure this made sense when I wrote this down, but I have absolutely no idea what I meant. And it's just completely pointless. So please expand on your notes. Trust me, you will thank yourself later. I touched on Trello before. We use this quite extensively to keep track of the single or the different things that need to be done. Organizing a hackathon is really, really complex. So this is just a snapshot of some of the stuff that we actually did for Hacknots. What this allows us to do is both keep track of the tasks. We see how far along we are. So that helps us with like tracking our goals. We can assign single responsible owners so we know who to ask if we have any problems. And in general, we just see what's going on, and it's quite easy to talk about like different things, which makes meetings and general communication a lot easier. And finally, if you do actually get stuck in communicating with other people on the team, and you do get close to that Darth Vader moment where you just want to strangle someone, remember there's a lot of other people out there who can help you get conversations started again. So there's a lot of you here in the room. There's a lot of other people in the hackathon community. There's also a lot of people at MLH who are really, really happy to help you in any aspect of getting communication going on your team, helping you with any task if you get stuck anywhere. And the bottom line of all this is really just remember how you communicate. And communication is like the one really, really big thing that can make or break a hackathon. And make sure that you actually have a really great time. Everything's going really well. You're not getting into a situation where things are suddenly going wrong and you just want to give up. So thanks, everyone. That's it from me. Woo!